Before humanity ever took its first breath, a war broke out in heaven. Not a war of weapons, but of hearts, between two of God's most radiant beings, Michael, the archangel of unwavering faith, and Lucifer, the light-bearer who forgot the source of his own light. Lucifer wasn't born evil. He was magnificent, radiant, intelligent, adored. But pride turned his brilliance into rebellion. He began to admire his own reflection more than the light that gave it life. And in that single moment, heaven felt what pain truly was. It's easy to treat that story as a myth, something distant and symbolic. But the truth is that war never really ended. It continues, not in the skies, but in the human heart. Every time we wrestle between humility and pride, faith and doubt, forgiveness and resentment, we are living echoes of that ancient battle. I've spent decades studying scripture and counseling believers across America, and I've learned that heaven isn't a faraway place. It begins in the heart that still chooses light, even when surrounded by darkness. A woman once told me, "I'm not afraid of the devil outside. I'm afraid of the little devil within, the part of me that refuses to let go." And she was right. Because Lucifer doesn't always appear with horns or fire. He appears in our stubbornness, our self-righteousness, in that quiet whisper that says, "I don't need God. I can do this on my own." And every time we silence that voice with love, every time we choose compassion over control, every time we stand firm in truth when lies would be easier, Michael stands with us again. Faith, you see, isn't the absence of struggle. It's the decision to keep believing while the storm still rages. Michael didn't win because he was the strongest. He won because he stayed faithful. Lucifer didn't fall because he was weak. He fell because he stopped being grateful. Even science gives us a glimpse of this mystery. Neuroscientists have found that when people pray, meditate, or reflect on goodness, certain regions of the brain light up, literally. Faith, it seems, creates light inside the mind. And perhaps that's what Scripture meant all along when it called faith the lamp of the heart. Maybe you've noticed, the older we grow, the more the world can look like Lucifer's domain. Violence, greed, confusion. The darkness feels louder now. But that's exactly when faith becomes most beautiful. Because light doesn't need to shout, it just needs to shine. So when you feel lost or tired or unseen, remember, every act of kindness, every small forgiveness, every time you pray instead of despair, you are holding Michael's sword. And through you, heaven wins again. When we read the story of the war in heaven, most people imagine thunder, fire, and chaos. But what many forget is this. It wasn't a war born of hate. It was a war born of betrayed love. Lucifer had once been the morning star, radiant, brilliant, the voice that led heaven's choir. But one day his song changed. He stopped singing to God and started singing about himself. And that, my friends, was the first crack in eternity. I often tell my students, when gratitude dies, pride is born. Lucifer's fall didn't begin with violence. It began with a thought. He looked at the glory that was given to him and whispered, "Why not me? Why not my throne?" And in that single whisper, paradise trembled. Theologians have long called this the sin of pride, but I've always believed it's deeper than that. It's the sin of forgetting who gave us the light. Because pride doesn't start as evil. It starts as blindness. Some people ask, if God is all-powerful, why didn't he just stop Lucifer? And the answer is as old as love itself, because love without freedom isn't love. God could have created perfect obedience, but he wanted willing hearts. And with freedom comes the risk of rebellion. He knew it, and still chose love anyway. When Lucifer rose against the throne, a third of heaven followed him. They believed his promise of glory, that a new kingdom could be built without submission, without humility.
He could not
For the first time, heaven knew fear.
so he turned
The harmony that had once filled eternity turned into the sound of division. And then Michael stood, not out of anger, but out of faith. He wasn't the mightiest angel, only the most steadfast. He gathered those still loyal to truth and said, "Stand firm. The glory of heaven belongs to the Most High alone." And in that moment, light clashed with light, pure radiance against corrupted brilliance. No one knows exactly what it looked like, but Scripture tells us Michael and his angels fought the dragon, and the dragon fought back, but he did not prevail. I've always pictured that moment, the heavens silent, the stars holding their breath, Michael and Lucifer facing each other like two brothers torn apart. One bowed in reverence, the other blinded by his own reflection. Lucifer cried, "This throne is mine." Michael answered softly, "You have no place here. Heaven belongs to the Almighty." And then light exploded, a flash so brilliant that even creation paused to remember it. Some say it was lightning, others say divine fire, but I believe it was truth itself, because nothing breaks darkness like truth spoken with faith. Lucifer fell, the morning star became the shadow, and for the first time heaven wept, not because of lost power, but because of lost innocence, because love had watched one of its own destroy itself. Yet the story didn't end there. Cast down from the heights, Lucifer turned his gaze toward earth, and humanity became his new battlefield, not with sword, but with whispers. When he tempted Eve in the garden, he didn't shout or strike. He asked a question, a small, poisonous question. Did God really say that? And that's how every war begins, not with armies, but with a seed of doubt planted in the heart. I've seen that same war play out 1,000 times, in families, in friendships, even in my own soul. Every time we're tempted to stop trusting, to let bitterness win, to believe the lie that goodness doesn't matter. Lucifer smiles, but Michael hasn't gone anywhere. He's still standing at the line between light and shadow, calling to anyone who will listen. Hold your ground. Truth still wins, and maybe, just maybe, every time you do something kind that no one sees, every time you forgive someone who doesn't deserve it, every time you pray instead of giving up, that's Michael fighting through you. When I was young, I used to imagine heaven as a faraway kingdom, a place of blinding light, angelic choirs, and a throne high above the clouds. But as I've grown older, I've come to believe something different. Heaven doesn't start above us. It starts within us. It begins in the heart that still chooses faith when everything around it falls apart. Through the years, I've met countless people, the broken, the weary, the ones the world forgot. And do you know what I've seen? Sometimes the weakest bodies hold the strongest faith. They may not carry swords or armor, but they fight every single day against fear, against despair, against that quiet whisper that says, "You're alone. You're no longer loved." I remember visiting an old woman in Florida. She was nearly 80, frail, her skin thin as paper, her breath shallow. I asked if she was afraid. She smiled and said, "No, Michael is still holding me. If I'm still breathing, it means God still has work for me to do." And in that moment, I understood. Faith doesn't make the storm disappear. It gives you the courage to stand through it. Michael didn't win because he was the strongest. He won because he never stopped trusting. Lucifer didn't fall because he was weak. He fell because he stopped being grateful. And in that contrast lies the truth of our existence, that heaven and hell are not just places. They are directions the heart can turn. We've all been given the same sacred gift, freedom. The freedom to love, to forgive, to believe. And with that freedom comes the same choice Lucifer once had, to lift ourselves up or to lift others up. to live for glory, or to live for grace.
Every time
Sometimes
you choose
people
faith,
ask me, do you
heaven
really believe
wins
in
again.
angels? And I say, I do. Not because I've seen them with my eyes, but because I've seen them through people. I've seen Michael in the mother who keeps praying for her lost child, in the father who stands tall after losing everything, in the widow who forgives the one who broke her heart. That's how angels fight, quietly, through us. And yes, I've seen Lucifer too, in arrogance, in coldness, in every time a heart closes itself to compassion. The war between them is still here, echoing through every human decision. Scripture says, "Rejoice, O heavens, but woe to the earth, for the devil has come down to you."
The light of heaven
It's not a threat,
touches every
it's a reminder.
generation.
The war now belongs to us. Heaven has peace, but earth remains the battlefield of faith. And every time someone chooses mercy over hate, Michael wins again.
Light never
Maybe
truly
that's why
dies.
God never closes
It
the
only
final
waits to be
door,
carried
because no matter how far we fall, there's always a way back. Even in ancient stories, they say Lucifer once looked back at heaven and wept. And maybe that's the
Truth
greatest
will
mystery of
always
all,
rise,
that even the darkest
even
soul
after
once knew the light.
longest night.
So Michael still fights, not to destroy the darkness, but to keep the flame of hope alive, so that even the lost can find their way home. And if you're listening to this
Heaven
right now,
rejoiced,
maybe you're at a point in
faith
life where you've
had
stopped
endured.
running the race, where the noise of the world feels too heavy. But your battle isn't over yet. It's not a war of power. It's a war of faith. Faith that says, light
never
still
dies.
matters, because even a
long as
single
we
candle
keep it
can break the
burning.
darkness of an entire room. So tonight, when you pray, don't ask for the storm to pass. Ask for the strength to stand, like Michael, until the storm forgets
Heaven
your name.
isn't where we go after
Because
death.
heaven isn't
It's
just
how
where we go
live
after
while
death.
We're still breathing.
It's how we live while we're still breathing. Light never truly dies, as long as we keep it burning. This is the war in heaven, and it continues every time you choose love.